60% turnout.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, not 8% turnout.
Well, you know, Washington's not supposed to determine, what we do as a nation, as individuals. I mean, they're supposed to be responsive to us. And the way to get them responsive to us is to do exactly what you're saying. The beautiful thing about America is we're not supposed to have a monolithic federal government that controls our local police departments.
That's right. No one can deny we don't have a giant, all-powerful state growing, and that liberties aren't being burned, and that freedoms aren't being destroyed, and that censorship isn't happening. We're going in the wrong direction, and we, all of us, need to speak up and talk about it and understand a giant army of snot-nosed collectivists who are dumber than a box of rocks are coming. Public schools are assigning mentors to all the kids, GPS trackers. They're ending the family. We are in a giant collectivist, globalist, plandopolis petri dish, and we have got to revolt against this every day in little ways. Did that answer your question, Jerry in Illinois?
Yes, it sure did, to a point. I mean, I'm getting sick of voting for Mickey Mouse as a write-it, because Mickey Mouse might have...
We all are,
Now, listen, we all are, Jerry, and I appreciate your call. Jerry, I think you should run for local office. Jerry, you should go speak out. I mean, what we're saying is it isn't all just about the presidential election. I'll be honest, I think it becomes a diversion in the final equation, and I think we're in deep trouble no matter who gets elected until we wake up out of this coma. What do you say in final comment on that, Joseph?
That's exactly what the advice I wrote back in a book in 2003, Taking America Back. Americans pay far too much attention to presidential elections and presidential politics, and they're not taking back their own communities. There's amazing power in your community.
Exactly. And look, Joseph and I are covering the election because most people are looking at it, and you want us to. Joseph, thank you so much for the time.
You bet.
There he goes. He's in Tampa. If you're watching on Prisonplanet.tv, we have the National Weather Service on screen with the big Hurricane Isaac that'll be making landfall, it looks like, the next 4 or 5 hours. With the main eye making landfall, well, we'll give you an update on that coming up in the next segment. But it's funny, last week we had filmmaker Michael Murphy. Will you guys give me a copy of his film? Thank you. He made What in the World Are They Spraying a few years ago. We have that available at InfoWarsShop.com, discounted. But now he's made Why in the World Are They Spraying, which is really just as important a question. Well, the two go together. We know what they're spraying. I want to briefly recap that. We know why they're spraying, and I want to break that down today because this film has the admissions. There's giant secret programs. The program's existence is admitted, but the details are classified. And we sit here as a society and think that we're back in the 1900s or something. Oh, you can't control the weather. You know, Joseph Farah was on earlier, and I was making the point of Obama with the joystick trying to steer it into Tampa. All I know is the Stanford Research Institute and the Department of Energy, as well as the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, in 1967, this is declassified 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that they could create hurricanes, kill hurricanes, strengthen hurricanes, weaken hurricanes, and steer hurricanes with old-fashioned aircraft technology. Ben Livingston, the father of weather weapons, who was, a captain back in World War II. What an amazing individual. He's still alive, last time I checked. He owns he's a meteorologist for one of the biggest weather modification companies in the U.S., you know, where ski resorts and people pay them to make sure they've got snow. You can pay the Russians to do that, the Chinese as well. But the point is that they declassified it. I got him to town. I did the interview. It's posted, hours of it at prisonplanet.tv. It's extremely powerful information with Ben Livingston. And in that, in World War II, at the end of it, he was flying propeller aircraft into not hurricanes, that's on our hemisphere, but into typhoons. Typhoons are the same as hurricanes. They're just spin the opposite direction because of the way the Earth rotates. And they can go up to, 50 miles an hour faster? And the point is he's the guy that would fly over with squadrons and flood the Ho Chi Minh Trail with 10 feet of water. He could take not even a small cloud and just turn it into a giant storm. Now they've got these antenna arrays on the ground beaming up, And countries like Dubai admit they have this and are turning the desert green. But here, like we're children, they go, fluoride isn't bad for you, kiddies. Oh, GMO's not bad for you. There's no world government, and all of this is going on. So both films are absolutely essential, and purchasing them at InfoWars Shop or InfoWarsStore.com funds our operation. But both these films are so important. And you've got Gilbert Griffin and many others in the first one, What in the World Are They Spraying? And now the new one that just came out last week, Why in the World Are They Spraying? And they also understand how important this is. They put it out free on YouTube, day one, just trying to have a future for their families and children. But I suggest you get the high-quality DVD with the expanded extras as well, because that's what this is all about, is educating and informing people. And, again, I know we've got loaded phones from people earlier. We need to go through them and make sure that our guests are now, our guest callers are, because most talk shows will just hang up on you when a new guest comes on. I like to be nice, but then I tend to keeping you on hold, which is kind of mean. So I'm nice and I'm bad, and I apologize. We should go through and just get people that have weather modification questions or people that have been involved, open the phone lines to meteorologists. Because in these films, they've got a lot of meteorologists as well saying things are going on that aren't normal. So the globalists want to play God because they're in a race with other governments for whoever can get the greatest super weapons. And most of the stuff that the free market created has been shelved. And that's another reason government is so incredibly arrogant right now. But you look at this hurricane, we would be weird to not say it could be government created as some type of disaster for the election. And maybe Obama's waiting to have a good response to it. That's not outside the realm of possibility. You know, my gut doesn't tell me that this is a manufactured hurricane. Katrina actually acted like that, the way even meteorologists said it sat there for a couple days and did nothing and then spun over. Very bizarre. But the point is, this stuff exists, so we've got to look at that. And joining us is filmmaker. He is the director and producer of the new film, Why in the World Are They Spraying? He's the founder and editor and CEO of Joseph Farah. Michael J. Murphy is a filmmaker, political activist, and president of the Coalition Against Geo-Engineering. His work focuses on issues that go beyond the interest of the corporate mainstream media and includes originating and co-producing the groundbreaking documentary, What in the World Are They Spraying?, several other short films that address chemtrails, geoengineering, and other controversial political issues. Michael has been also appeared in hundreds of radio interviews, and he joins us right now. Okay, so you join us via Skype with better audio this time. Good to have you back. Recap what in the world they're spraying, and then let's look at why they're doing it. Just give it to us up front. Of course, all the interviews and proof are in the film, and what this signifies, what, from your research, the master plan is.
Well, there are a lot of master plans. In What in the World Are They Spraying? We really took an investigative look in exactly what specifically was being sprayed. And what we found was the primary ingredients of geoengineering programs, aluminum, barium, strontium, other heavy metals being found in rain tests from around the world. Very high quantities. In just a couple of years, we've seen quantities go as high as 50,000%. And we really illustrated in that form both the health implications, which are just unquantifiable, and then the ecological implications of these programs. And aluminum oxide is what the primary ingredient is. Geoengineers state that that's an effective metal to spray into the sky because they state it's very effective and very lightweight to stay up in the sky very long, but it's very harmful to humans. Since really the increase of these programs, we've seen aluminum-related illnesses such as Alzheimer's. In the Riverside County, we've seen over 260% increase of just Alzheimer's. We now have documented cases of people in their 40s with dementia, both Alzheimer's. Barium is very, very toxic to human health. When we inhale this, it gets into our system, and it lowers our immune system. So we can expect to see an increase of illnesses, cancers, other related problems. And then I've spoken to a number of physicians, some emergency room physicians, and during heavy spray days, the days that you the trails go back and forth and they completely turn our sky into this milky color, the emergency rooms are packed and people complain of irritability, headache, nausea, burning eyes. But being that barium increases our blood pressure, they stated they expect to see an increase of heart attacks and strokes during these. But the ecological implications, Alex, are just unquantifiable because, again, aluminum oxide and the other primary ingredients of geoengineering program our soils. And the scientists in Northern California noticed that the forests were collapsing, organic foods were not growing, so they started to investigate a little bit. And initially, they did pH changes of the soil, and they found that the pH changes in that area, which is typically an area that has acidic soil, changed between 10 to 12 times the normal amount of alkalinity. Anybody with basic science realizes that when a the pH of a soil changes that much, you can expect any dye that required soil to grow, exactly what was happening. So they began to investigate further and again started taking rain tests. And again, the primary ingredients of geoengineering programs, aluminum, barium, strontium, which will change the pH of soil and actually essentially sterilize our soils, are being found everywhere. So again, these metals match a number of geoengineering patents, which have literally been designed to spray these metals out of airplanes. They match what geoengineers deny that they're spraying, state that they urgently want to.
Yeah, your Skype's breaking up. Maybe on the third interview, that'll be the charm, but we're going to try to keep going through this with you right now. You may want to shut down any programs that are running in the background here with the filmmaker. This couldn't be a more important subject. It couldn't be a more important area to understand because, I was making a chemtrail film before you guys made yours. That's why I'm glad you made yours, because I was so busy I never got around to it. But expanding on this, there's hundreds of patents, and there's all these different agencies doing it, and they admit it's going on. They just are classifying the specifics, and they're trying to dominate the weather while manipulating our soils at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And weather control is a very effective tool to consolidate an enormous amount of both monetary and political power into the hands of a few. And if we go with geoengineers are stating they want to do this, for as they state, it's to mitigate global warming. So dispersing aerosols into our sky will block the sun. And, we looked into that. And yes, dispersing aerosols into our sky will reflect the sunlight. So regionally, temporarily, it will create cooling. But we have found a number of studies, university studies, a couple of studies by NASA. Not that I'm a big NASA fan or believe everything that NASA puts out, but these studies indicate putting aerosols will, again, temporarily regionally cooling, but those aerosols act as a blanket at night and trap heat. And Alex, in the past 10 to 15 years, when these programs have really ramped up, we've seen a great increase in nighttime highs. So the question really that we've been asked is, why is this going on? A lot of people, we connected a lot of dots in the first film. So we got emails, hundreds of them every day. And the answer isn't so simple. Our agenda can be fulfilled by putting aerosols into our sky, but weather control seems to be the #1 agenda. We met with, the first interview was actually with former 20-year weatherman Scott Stevens, and he explained to us how the aerosols work in conjunction with the storms, but what really led us in that direction...
Stay there. I want to hear about that when we get back. It couldn't be a bigger subject. We know they put chemicals in our water, GMO designed to sterilize us in our food. That's in all the major studies. Well, they're also manipulating the weather. And Aaron's actually got it in a big file. We did a special report on it. What was it, 1992? A scientist won a Nobel Prize for spraying aluminum dioxide in the atmosphere to manipulate things. NASA says the Earth's between 22 and 31% darker, especially over the industrialized world, with the trails, but they say, oh, the ice crystals are doing it. Okay, well, when I was a child, you watch the trail go by, you watch it dissipate in 30 seconds to a minute. Now I watch them sit there for hours and create a haze. And people say, well, it's special spray planes doing it. Well, we know government and corporations have those. And we know that's going on. There have been government programs with helicopters spraying white blood cells on cities. I mean, there's been all sorts of crazy stuff admitted. Releasing stuff in the New York subway. That's in the New York Times. Radiating foster kids, shooting people up with syphilis. We know secret testing is the byword of this scientific elite. This mad scientist cabal that runs the New World Order.